Good afternoon, you rate, and welcome to this week's recorded history lesson. As you're probably aware, today you're going to be doing your assessment on Winston Churchill and assessing whether you think he's a good leader or not. Miss Matthews has put a writing frame to help you with this assessment on Satchel. So if you haven't already found that, before we get into introducing the assessment and setting you on your way, can you just pause the video here and go and find that writing frame, please? And then we'll move on and go through what you're going to be asked to do during this assessment, and then I'll get you started on it. As this assessment is asking you if Churchill was a good war leader or not, I thought it'd be just helpful for us to think a little bit about what a good leader, or a good war leader rather, actually is. Okay, so have a little think about, before we write in this, what you expect in a good war leader. What sort of qualities and what sort of skills does a good war leader have? Just have a little think about that. I've put 6 ideas that I thought of on the screen there for you. Feel free to jot them down if you want. I'll just talk through them and see what you think. Okay, so a good war leader must be a good listener. They must listen to expert advice, whether that be generals who are sort of more expert with war and tactics to do with war, or whether it be other politicians who have opinions on other things. It's good to listen to expert advice and to take all of it into account to make sure you're making the right decisions. Okay. Also, to be a good negotiator, so to negotiate with other countries, whether that's negotiating treaties or negotiating deals and trying to get other countries into the war. It's important for a good war leader to be strong at that and make sure they get the best deal for their country or their side in the war. Thirdly, they need to be positive. In order to win a war, you need to have the whole country behind you. You need to remain positive, even if the circumstances aren't particularly great and they're a bit glum at the time. You need to make sure you remain positive to keep everyone happy and are united in the right direction. So make sure we're looking out for a positive leader. Then inspiring, able to make people believe in the cause. You're very unlikely to win a war if people don't believe you can win or don't believe in the cause that you're fighting for. So it's important for a good war leader to be that inspiring figure and make people or get people excited to fight the war and get people really up for winning it, and get people really desiring a victory in that war that leads to victory. Fifth there, you've got strategically good, so able to make good decisions on what battles to enter or which battles they need to win. So it's going to be a good feature for you to look out for or write about in your essay as to whether you think Churchill was a strategically good leader and he made good decisions in battles. And then finally, a good speech maker as well. Obviously, that goes hand in hand with many of the features above, but a good speech maker enables him to speak to the public well, get across his ideas about the war, and really unite the country and make the country go in one direction to win the battle. So there are a few features of a good war leader. Okay, so if you want to jot those down, just pause the video now and you can put them on a piece of paper or in your book somewhere to help you during your assessment. When you're writing it, do you think that Churchill actually meets this criteria? Does Churchill have these skills? If so, write about them and explain how. And if not, write about it and explain how. Okay, so just jot those down if you want to, and then get ready to move on to the next slide. Right, guys, now this is a table that you might have already seen and you might have already worked on in your last few lessons. I just thought it would be helpful to just re-go through it and refresh your memory just so you're all set to go. So we're going to be going through here some evidence that shows he was a great war leader and evidence that shows Churchill was not such a great war leader. Okay, and this might be helpful for you to use in your assessment in a second. Okay, so for a great war leader, surveys showed that 89% of the public thought Churchill was a good leader, showing the public had confidence in him and he created unity. He made good decisions, such as appointing Montgomery in Egypt, leading to a great victory for Britain. So he's appointing the right men to the right roles, which is a good skill to have. And thirdly, Churchill put aside his differences with Russia and joined with them to help the war effort. So he's making peace with certain enemies in order to make the greater good and do the best for Britain and win the war. Okay, so that's all evidence you can use there in your assessment to talk about how Churchill was a good war leader. So feel free to use that and explain those points a little bit further in your essay if you'd like. Some evidence that he's not so great. He made a bad deal with the USA where Britain only got 50 ships that it did not need, and only 9 could be used. Okay, so that's sort of signs of a bad negotiating deal there, where Britain got put in a bad position really by giving 50 ships it didn't need, 41 of which didn't even work. Okay, so that's maybe a sign of poor negotiation. He sent thousands of British troops to Greece and got defeated in only a few days. Okay, that would probably show that Churchill wasn't planning it, wasn't thinking it through, and wasn't spotting problems before they arose, which a good leader might do. So that's also evidence that you might be able to use when you write up in a second. And thirdly, he couldn't convince President Roosevelt to join the war and help Britain, and he failed to get any assistance from America with weapons or supplies. Okay, so that's also a really important point there, which you can use and you can write about, that Churchill didn't achieve what he wanted out of those negotiations. He couldn't get America to help him out, and not only that, he didn't get any weapons or supplies from America to help win the war when Britain was struggling and was alone in Europe fighting against the Germans. Okay, so for both sides of the coin there, evidence that he's a great war leader and evidence that he's not such a great war leader, you've got there, which you can use to help you. If you'd like to jot some down and you feel like you haven't already got those written down somewhere, then pause the video here and write those down to help you. But when you're in your assessment, make sure you're explaining those points and explaining how it shows he's a great war leader or how it shows he's not such a great war leader. Right guys, now that we've jogged your memory a little bit and you remember a little bit about Churchill, it's now time to get stuck into the assessment itself. Okay, so the question, can you write that down, or the assessment title rather? Winston Churchill was a great war leader for Britain during World War II. How far do you agree? Okay, so we're going to do this now. I want you to write at the start of this assessment 3 reasons why you agree that he was a good war leader, and explain. So look for 3 pieces of evidence or 3 examples of Winston Churchill showing good leadership. Then once you've done that, you need to write 3 reasons why you disagree with that statement and explain them. So find 3 pieces of evidence or example of Winston Churchill showing bad leadership and explain why it's bad leadership. Okay. Once you've done that, write a conclusion, come to a final decision. Okay. So do you think that Churchill was a good leader for Britain? Come to that final decision in your conclusion and explain why you believe that. Okay. You're allowed 1 page of notes with you during this assessment, so feel free to use that help if you need it. And also there's a writing frame, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, that Miss Matthews has put on Satchel for you. Okay, so if you're all set to go, guys, go ahead and write that assessment, and once you're finished, upload it to Satchel and we'll have a look through and mark it. So best of luck, and upload it once you're done. Thanks guys.